end of 2025, our residential rate was 40% below the national average. We're top 10% in affordability, reliability, and customer satisfaction. So we're delivering well, and we want to get better, but we also want to be active in our community, seen by our community as being an agent for good. And some of that, inescapably is about being engaged in our communities to make a difference for our members, to make a difference in their life, to make life better for them.
Hi, I'm Amy Byers, and welcome to MTE's Plugged In podcast, where we bring good energy to every conversation. From time to time, we're going to be doing a special series called The People Who Power MTE, and it's a chance for you to get to know the folks here at MTE and kind of look behind the scenes of what goes on. So we thought for our very first episode, let's start at the top. So I have brought in today Chris Jones. He is our president and CEO, and we're really excited to have you. Welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here. This is awesome.
So before we get into specific topics, I just want to talk to you a little bit about the MTE team. So you have a very specific idea of what you think the culture and our values should be on this team. And I want you to talk to a little bit about that and what that looks like.
Okay. I'm happy to try to. And of course, I know we've talked about this a lot, Amy, you and I have, but and I hope this won't come as unfamiliar to anyone who hears this, but it bears repeating. And so there's a foundational element of the service and of being a servant. And so I want to start there. Of course, we'll talk about the ideal team player virtues also, but it starts foundationally with an attitude of service. That's collective, but it's also individual, because what I like to say is that if you can't view yourself as a servant, then you're just not going to do well at the Militancy Electric.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You've got to have that heart set and mindset to be successful. That's what we are at our best when we view ourselves for our members. We are at our best when we view ourselves as servants, and we're at our best for our teammates when we view ourselves as servants. So we're that's what we're here for. We are here to serve our members and to serve each other. But then more, particularly, and what we've talked about a lot, and I think what is helpful to people in thinking about what that looks like, how we live that out, are those ideal team player virtues that we picked up from Patrick Lencioni's book, that I think that book does such a good job of describing what an ideal team player looks like. And those, of course, are hunger, let's start with humility, hunger, and people smarts. And those virtues, again, are what we seek to, and what it should look like as we live out our mission of service. We should not think too highly of ourselves, organizationally or individually. We should want to go above and beyond for our teammates and for our members. And we should be good and active listeners. We should meet people where they are. And again, do those things in balance. So again, we could talk about that a lot, but that's who we're supposed to be.
And for those of you who've never read the Ideal Team Player book, I highly recommend it. I know, and if you have children, I know my daughter just recently started a new job, and before she started, I'm like, you need to read this book. Make sure you understand this. So, and that's what you want to be. Make sure you're the ideal team player. So I think it's a great book for any employee, but really if you've got a high schooler or a college student fixing to go out into the job market, even if it's their first job.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a great place, a great foundation to have before you go into the working world. And I know that's something that before, that's when you get hired here, you're given that book.
That's right.
And encouraged to read it. And it's something that we hear a lot about here. And I really think, to go back a little bit to the servant heart, I think, we do live that day to day. And I think, a lot of that's what's happening inside the building, and sometimes our members may not see that. But after this recent ice storm, I think our members saw that. And I have been asked over the years, being in the utility industry, what is the favorite times of your job? What do you like the best? And oddly enough, my answer is always like the big outages, which is horrible because I don't want anybody to be without power. It's really a stressful situation. But what happens here when that happens is that coming together with that common mission, and it's like everything else just disappears into the background. You know, you could be in an argument with somebody and you're just going to put a pause in that because now you're best friends because we're all working together for this common goal. Like it is such it's almost like a rush and a high that you get knowing that you are working to help somebody, you know, all that goes into that. So I want to talk about the storm. I think our members are going to want to know kind of what happened here, what we did during the behind the scenes of that ice storm.
Yeah. Well, you said it very, very well, beautifully said. And I appreciate that so much because that's exactly right. And, you know, we're talking about team here and culture, if you will. You can use these different terms, but it comes down to just who we are.
Right.
What kind of person, what kind of people are we? What kind of organization are we? And again, I do agree completely, Amy, that that challenge brought out the best in MTE, but it brought out who we are. It displayed that.
Oh yes.
And like, for example, I thought about how recently hired employees, you know, that have been here a couple of years maybe, got to see that in full force. I mean, I had a number of them say, you know, I'm proud to work here, but I really get it.
Yeah. Yes.
Which was awesome. But the other thing is, and I say this as much for my team members as anything, my fellow team members, is that, this was a challenge, and we were prepared for it in terms of, you know, operational preparation. You don't prepare for these things the week before. You know, you got to trim the trees for years and all the time and stuff like that. But, you know, there's operational preparation and maintenance and all that. There's technological preparation. But for MTE and the success, if you will, we had in getting through that challenge, if we don't see that as a team culture win, then we're either blind or, you know, jaded. But that's what it was fundamentally.
Yeah.
And when teams go through challenges, they'll either demonstrate their resilience or their lack thereof.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It just shows up.
Yeah.
And again, that demonstrated clearly to me just the good team that we have.
Absolutely. And I know, you know, on my team, with the communications team, we have a lot of new employees. And I think, not to date myself, but, you know, I was around, I was working during the 94 ice storm. And so really on my team, I think I was the only, I mean, we've been through tornadoes, we've been through outages, but I think, and we've talked about this too, if someone said, what's the worst thing that can happen to a power system? I'm going to say it's an ice storm. They are the worst.
In our area,
because
that's it.
You know, it's the gift that keeps on giving, you know.
That's
so
right.
we're still, every time the wind blows, the trees are now weak, we're going to have problems. But even getting out there to get it repaired, I don't think people just realized, I mean, you know, once we hear ice storm, we're thinking, oh, that's 2 or 3 days. I mean, it's going to be this isn't going to, we're going to have you on in 24-hour situation.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of that, you know, I was talking with one of my teammates, and I'm like, you know, this is a situation where the cream's going to rise to the top. We're going to see how we're all going to perform here because we've never, you know, like you said, there's a few of us that's been around for a minute, but for the most part, we have a young team, and this is their first big test.
Yeah.
And boy, did we pass?
I know, right.
I think. Right. I mean, the people that you know were out, and that's what has been the one thing I think. Of course, this was the first ice storm like this with social media. So in 94, there was no social media. So you really didn't know what everybody was thinking or feeling. But now we know what everybody's thinking and feeling. And I think I'll just take this opportunity to thank all of our members because, my goodness, the encouragement that we got from the messages, like that was what I was not expecting. I was not expecting the patience, the understanding, the encouragement of these people that have been without power for a few days, still just, we know you're
Yeah.
doing all you can and we really appreciate you, and, all the thanks. And I don't know if they realize we did read every single message, and not just the communications team. These crews would go home at night and they would read all these messages, and it would just invigorate them.
It was fuel for them.
It really was. It was. And no, I think it was. I think we will be living off that high.
Well, right.
For a while, because it was such a good feeling, and
it's like, it just shows the true spirit of a cooperative, in terms of the members out there. They were encouraging us almost even if they didn't fully understand it, with a seeming understanding that we're in this together. This is our co-op,
Yeah.
And so, these are the folks that are working for me, so I want to give them a word of encouragement.
Yeah.
And it was fuel for our team. And I'll say this, because again, there's so many different categories, and I don't want to leave out any category of our team, because it was a solid performance across the board. And we're learning lessons. We could have done things better. We know that. But you and the communications team, all your teammates in communications, when and you never know how bad one of these storms are going to be until they hit you.
Right.
Now, we were prepared watching the forecast, but it's tough to forecast winter weather here.
Yeah.
When it became evident early that Sunday morning, as it was 5 a.m. and outage just started, the ice accumulation we were watching was such that, okay, this is going to be one that's going to last, for more than one day. I challenge you guys to say, hey, let's have updates every hour on the hour until we're done.
Yeah.
And you guys did that, and I'm just so proud of you all for doing that, and responding to all the questions and the concerns that were coming in. You guys, you shifted out and covered all the hours, and and you made those responses. There was that time early in the morning that you guys shut down for a few hours.
Yeah.
But you covered it so well, and it made a tremendous difference.
We tried to cover, I think, like I said, you set the bar. You said every hour, and we really, unless we were waiting on information like we knew, because we worked very closely with system control. And then you think about all the stuff they're doing, they're the ones monitoring the system, they're the ones sending crews, and then we're saying, hey, could you just take a minute and talk to us for a little bit, and so they did, but sometimes we had to kind of wait for some information, or we knew something was fixing to happen, so we wanted to wait a little bit. But for the most part, we tried to, from 6 to 11, pretty much. Yeah. We kept those updates, and that was something we never had done before. So that was a lesson. It's not necessarily a lesson learned, because we did it, but I guess the lesson we learned was it was what was needed and what our members expect. So going forward, that's something that we need to do. And I think what I'm so proud about within the communications team is that, a lot of times you're like, well, I'm on call for 4 hours and then I'm out of here. I don't think any of us left our own call. Like, we were all working. I know we talk about the linemen working 16-hour shifts. I think we were doing that as well. And it's hard to stop yourself from answering those messages and doing that. And so it was really a good effort. And to circle back to something else you said, because I want, we're looking at this as a success, but even so, there are things that even in the communications department, we're like, well, next time we should do A, B, C, and D. And I think every single department here, and that's one thing too to bring up, is that every department has a role to play. A lot of people think it's just the lineman, but HR, finance, like everybody, engineer, everybody has a role to play. And all those departments debriefed after the storm and said, what worked, what didn't work, what are we going to do different next time? And so I think that's important that we learn from every experience.
I do too, and I think it says a lot about that team culture, that on the heels of what was a successful restoration viewed by our members, thankfully, which we appreciate as a successful restoration, that we in our after action reviews came out with pages of information where we said, okay, we can do this better. And we don't want another ice storm next year, but still we're learning lessons, and we can look at ourselves and say, okay, in a humble way, these are things we can do better, and in a hungry way, just because we want to be better.
Right.
And just so thankful for that.
Yeah. Well, so we get the ice storm, we come off that, and then we're hit immediately with what we like to call high consumption season, what our members typically call high bill season. So, we had some extreme, we didn't get above freezing for days, so very extreme weather. Fortunately, it did warm back up pretty quickly. And a lot of times, people get those bills when it's 70 and 80 and they're like, why is this so high? And you forget, but, and typically, high consumption season basically is when those extreme temperatures, whether high or cold, come in, it's just going to use more electricity to keep your home comfortable. That's the way it is. And if you have the app, if you don't have the app, download
Definitely
my MTE. But you can track your usage along with that weather data, and that's the best way to make people understand. It's like you can see when the temperatures dipped, your usage went up in the winter, and of course that's reversed in the summer. But what we hear is that y'all have raised the rates during these, in January, during the cold snap, you raised the rate. Well, when the reality is you're just using more electricity. But I want to circle back to the rate question because you shared some interesting information with us just last week that I was shocked. I think most of the employees were shocked. This was the water cooler conversation around the building. So let's talk a little bit about our rate.
Yeah, glad to. Because rates are kind of like they're the price of electricity, and our rates are based on a per kilowatt hour charge, and that's maybe unfamiliar and confusing what that means, but it's kind of the equivalent of from gasoline perspective, price per gallon.
Right.
It's kind of it's what it costs to use electricity per unit.
Yeah.
And so. And when we can compare that to other utilities around the country, and the information we got back from the Energy Information Administration, which is a federal entity that keeps tabs on all this information, showed at the end of last year, end of 2025, our residential rate was 40% below the national average. That's the biggest delta difference, that we have seen in a long, long time.
Because typically it's been, 25, 25?
I remember, like 20 years ago, and you'll remember too, it was like, we'd say 15%.
Right.
And then we said 20, 25 in the last few years.
Yeah.
But 40%.
That's crazy.
That's a big difference. Now, yes, electric rates in general across the country are going up, and since the pandemic, they have ticked up just a bit. And there are a number of reasons for that, and inflationary pressures are the primary drivers. With supply chain, things like that. It costs more for the fuels that produce electricity, like natural gas and things like that. But when you look at us and compare us from the standpoint of value, if we're a gas station, our price per gallon is cheaper than anybody else in town.
Right.
So the price is good.
Yeah.
And from the standpoint of sometimes people will say, well, you just need to lower your bills. Our price point is such that we're squeezing out a lot of value for the price that we are charging. And the fact that we can be 40% below the national average, I think, is very much a demonstration of that. But I think people often, and I know myself before I got into this business, and even now, I leave a lot on the table when it comes to saving electricity in my home, right? Because like the gas analogy, you have you go to pull up the gas station and fill up your tank with gas, but the gas station doesn't tell you, what kind of car to buy or how you're going to drive it or how far you're going to drive it. And in the same kind of analogy, we're providing a service and a fuel, if you will, electricity, commodity. But, we don't dictate, of course, to our members what kind of house they purchase, what their insulation looks like, what their energy usage habits are. We want to encourage them to do that wisely. And an opportunity like this, again, to talk about, okay, we are at an affordable price point, a very affordable price point. So if I'm going to save on my bill, what can I do? And, chances are there are a lot of things we can do to save. But your point about heating, so that is a challenge here in our area because a number of people have heat pumps that heat their home, and they're wonderful technology. But when we have a week like you described a while ago, when the temperature doesn't get above freezing, then it's going to kick in that emergency or auxiliary heat, and that's going to use a lot of electricity. So sometimes, we'll hear, I'm talking too much here, but we'll hear members say, oh, well, I left my thermostat at 70 degrees. So why is there a change in my bill? It's that my setting was the same.
Yeah.
But that unit is going to behave very, very differently to keep you comfortable on a day when it's 20 degrees outside versus when it's 60 degrees outside.
Absolutely.
It's a drastic difference in terms of the way that unit behaves and how much electricity it uses.
I know what a situation that we had. Of course, I'll just be upfront about it. My electric bill went up $100, and I'm gonna tell you, I was relieved. I didn't know what it was going to be, and I was really nervous. So when it just went up $100, I was very thankful because I was like, wow, I really thought it would be worse because we have heat pumps, and twice our unit froze and quit working. And so, to fix that, you force it into, and I think it's the water dripping, from the gutters and all that stuff that you don't normally get when it's just cold or even snow. It's that the ice causes a lot more problems. But the fix to that is to turn on the emergency heat and let it dethaw. So we had to, it was coming on and off the emergency heat on its own, but we have a newer unit that runs in stages. So we probably didn't run emergency heat as long as maybe some older units would have ran it. So, but having to force it to do it several times to dethaw our unit, I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is going to be bad. And then we're stuck at home. I think that's one thing people forget. You're stuck at home. And I know, well, I was dealing with, the ice storm. So I didn't do as much cooking and baking as I would have done because I was busy. But, my family was there and, they were baking cookies. I was stressed. I was like, go bake me some cookies. You're stuck in there. The kids are home from school. They're using electricity. So, a lot of that kind of goes into that. And now we're in what we call the shoulder months. And we're going to be hitting this again July and August. So I would kind of just to do a little advertisement here. We do have Energy Pros that are great at coming out for free.
Yes.
To come out and tell you, to look at your house, number one, to look at obvious things like, do you have windows that are leaking? Can you weather strip around your doors or window? Are there things like that? But then also to talk to you about your lifestyle. What are some of the things you could do to save energy? So if you don't know where to start,
that's a great place.
This is a great place to start, and I can't stress it enough. This is the time to do it. Don't wait. Yeah. And then levelized billing.
Well, that's a wonderful capability that we have that's available to any member.
Yeah.
And especially those maybe who aren't on it. Maybe you've never really seriously thought about it, but you have a high bill that has hit you. You can get some relief from that bill right away.
Absolutely, yeah.
By signing on to levelized billing. So, and like you said, Amy, we know it's winter's more unpredictable here. Summer is not unpredictable.
I know, it's gonna get hot. It's gonna stay hot.
It's gonna be hot and stay hot.
Yeah.
So we know it's coming.
Yeah.
So let's get ready for it. And there are things that anybody can do at their home over the next couple of months to get their home more ready. Caulking. Changing out the filters of your heat and air system, calling an Energy Pro, and letting them come by and give you an evaluation, tips and whatnot. Yeah. So let's do that. Yeah,
and we do have energy tips, MTE.com/energy tips. If you want to go to our website for that, or you can go to the website, and I think you can go to the energy efficiency page and you'll see the Energy Pros there. But definitely give that a call. But so let's look at the future a little bit. I know you work very closely with TVA, as well as serving on the governor's nuclear board. And what power-wise, we hear a lot about that. What do our members need to know? What do they need to pay attention to?
So the capacity has been an issue. It's a national issue, as our industry is kind of evolving and changing and transitioning, ultimately necessarily away from fossil fuel, especially coal, to other resources that have to be replaced. And then we have to build more capacity because the demand is going up. And demand is going up for a number of reasons. All the reasons we use electricity at the home is, they're staying pretty steady, and we have more electronics and not less, and all that. But for our area, lots of people are moving here. Lots of people are moving into the valley, so our population is increasing. More and more economic development, which is what we want. And then you have the what's really new and the biggest challenge is artificial intelligence and the data centers that are required to make that work. That's going to be what part of the new economy is all about, and we want to be participants in the new economy. And so these data centers that fuel AI, they use lots of electricity and water and other things. So, but they're needful. But that, as we look out in the future, is going to increase demand much more than other things we've seen in the past. Yeah. So again, these data centers are knocking on our door. So this is for the whole Tennessee Valley. So TVA, and make sure people know, TVA generates basically all the power that we distribute. We're the distributor. They're the generator of power. They transmit the electricity to us, and we pick it up and distribute it locally. But yeah, we depend on them. So right now, TVA has improved their capacity. A number of us will remember the rolling blackouts from a few years ago, and that was a unique situation. A lot wrong hadn't happened, but it did shine a light on the fact that TVA was more capacity constrained than we really knew. And so since then, they have done a good job of increasing their capacity. They're squeezing more life out of their existing resources, including some of their coal resources, but they're also building lots of natural gas generation. But you mentioned nuclear, and for the future, for the longer term, to me, nuclear is fundamentally important. And TVA today, they have three nuclear plants that generate 40+% of the electricity they generate today. That's today, more than 40%. So nuclear is fundamentally important to us right now. And those plants will last decades longer. But we need more nuclear, new nuclear, next generation nuclear. And Tennessee is in a unique position with TVA to lead that effort for our country. So I'm eager to see how that plays out. There's nothing coming online in the next couple of years with new nuclear, but around 2030, in the early 2030s, I think we're going to see some new nuclear plants come online. And again, when those are built, they last 100 years. Yeah. So they're expensive up front, but once you get them started and working, they provide good, solid baseload generation for a long, long time. We're still going to need to take advantage of things like solar generation, solar power, and we're doing some of that ourselves as MTE, and I'm proud of that.
We'll have some podcasts on that later.
That's awesome. That's great. Very excited about that.
Yeah.
But in terms of just the volume of electricity that's needed for the future, we're going to have baseload generation, always on, always available, that's going to last us a long time. And to me, nuclear is the way to focus for the long term. Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit. I want to, we were talking about our rates being 40%, and I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're a member-owned, non-for-profit utility. Or cooperative, and I don't know that people realize that non-for-profit part of our model, but that's what helps us keep the rates low. But that member-owned is just as important to us as the non-for-profit. So let's talk a little bit about what that means and what that means for the communities and the people we serve.
Yeah, I'm glad to. Because again, fundamentally, from the standpoint of service, because sometimes we'll get a question, why do you guys do all that other stuff? Just give me electricity, and I can appreciate the practicality, the efficiency, and that. But we are called to be more. Now again, are we delivering good value from the standpoint of electricity? Well, we are top decile, top 10%. And these are hard numbers and soft numbers. Again, data verifiable and sometimes survey. We're top 10% in affordability, reliability, and customer satisfaction. So we're delivering well, and we want to get better.
Yeah.
So we're delivering well there. But as an electric cooperative, a cooperative that exists solely to benefit our members, and again, not for profit. So any profit, any margin we earn is going to go back into the system to make it better for our members. That's how we operate. But we're also called to make a difference for our members, to make a difference in their life, to make life better for them. And some of that, inescapably, is about being engaged in our communities and being an agent of good, an agent for good for our community. So that's who we're called to be. And again, as a team, and I know you share this sentiment with me, Amy, and I think this is prevalent across our organization. That's what we want to do. So when we come to work, we have a job to do that's in front of us, but we also want to be active in our community, seen by our community as being an agent for good. So we're going to be out there in the schools. We're going to be on Earth Day. We're going to be
that was a couple of weeks ago, Earth Day. So it went great, and it's a great opportunity to see our members and talk to them. And the unique thing about Earth Day every year is, all the team members are there. We're all there, setting up booths or working the event, but our board members come specifically to talk to our members. That's right. The board is elected by our members. So if you have ideas, you have concerns, the board's there. They want to hear it. And this is a great opportunity every year for them to be out there in front of the membership and for the membership to come and talk to them. But we do stuff of course, that was in Rutherford County, but we do stuff in, the fairs in Wilson and Williamson and things in Cannon. So we try to get out there in our whole area. And I don't think anybody's going to complain about those grilled cheese that we have free for people.
That's a great little, just a picture of kind of who we are too, though. I mean, we want to do something special.
Right.
And those grilled cheeses are pretty special.
They are.
But it's an opportunity for us to connect with our members, to be out there. And we do that in so many different ways. And also, I want our members to know that we provide 2 paid days every year for our employees to do something community driven.
Right.
Like you could go on a habitat builder for a day and be paid for that. So we do that for every employee. But there's so many things we do collectively as an organization to be out there and to be engaged in our community.
Yeah, and in October, we have our co-op days of service where we have a week where we target different, like maybe special kids or, different organizations within our footprint. Yeah. And the team goes out there and serves.
Right. That's right. And then there's things like sharing change where, just rounding up your bill and then, through the strength of the cooperative, the strength in numbers and a few pennies by everyone adding up to real dollars. Right. But then the cooperative, working with community organizations and community causes to help them out, to do the good work they're doing out there.
And we have teammates that are serving on these boards,
That's right.
the help agencies and really, so we're seeing, what the need is, can bring that back to the utility to figure out how we can help. So this is definitely a kind of a behind the scenes moment that I think members may not realize all that we do. But before we wrapped up today, is there anything else that I've missed that you feel like we need to talk about?
Well, it's been gratifying. Back to the ice storm.
Yes.
Again, that like we were talking about, you dread that happening from the standpoint of just knowing it's going to be disruptive.
Yeah.
But there's also a certain excitement that comes in knowing that this challenge is in front of you and your team has an opportunity to show itself. And I'm just so, again, fundamentally proud of the team and thankful for each one of them and all that they do. So I want to say that again. We didn't talk any about United Communications, and just very briefly, I'll say, Middle Tennessee Electric owns United Communications, our fiber broadband company. They are doing a marvelous job in terms of spreading their fantastic service across our service territory and beyond, high-speed internet, building fiber to make our electric system better too. It just works together so very well. But we're excited about the future for United and all that they're doing. And I want to give a quick shout out to them. Again, we're kindred spirits in terms of the attitude of service, and I'm thankful for them.
Yeah. Well, Chris, thank you so much, not only for being here today, but really for your leadership, because I think, as anyone that's worked for a company where you don't have strong leadership, I mean, it starts at the top and goes from there, and you certainly live and work and serve by example for the rest of us to follow. So really appreciate that. Appreciate you being here today, and appreciate everybody out there listening. So for more information about MTE, you can go to mte.com. All of our programs and services and contact information is there. If you have any questions about today's episode or anything in general, or if you have a topic you would like for us to discuss, email us at communications@mte.com. And until next time, stay plugged in and keep bringing good energy.